On in his mandate about 3 years ago, I said, and I forget to whom, that Mark Sutcliffe would be a one-term mayor. Now, maybe he's about to prove me wrong. Who knows? I've been wrong before. It's okay. But I want to tell you what made me say that and why I still think to this day that if I was right and if he does not win re-election this October, um, how I saw this coming. 3.5 years ago, in January 2023, the decision was made to reopen Wellington Street. Now, you'll remember, those of you who were in Ottawa at the time, that we had had this protest, the convoy protest that turned into an occupation of downtown Ottawa for almost a month. And that after the trucks had been cleared, the decision was made to block access to vehicles to that stretch of Wellington's about 500 meters that's like in front of the parliamentary precinct to avoid a repeat. And that made a lot of sense. Obviously, we didn't want to have trucks parked there after we just spent weeks clearing them. But then nothing happened. We kept this chunk of Wellington Street closed to vehicular traffic and didn't do anything with it for about a year. It just stayed there being an empty street. People were frustrated. Those who were used to driving on this road were frustrated that they had to do a detour, which was not that big of a deal. But sometimes drivers, they don't like a detour, even if it's only 60 meters. And then those of us who thought this was a golden opportunity to do something really cool with that stretch of Wellington that's right in front of Parliament buildings and all this beautiful stuff. We have the nation's capital where tourists go every time they're in town. To do something really cool with this, perhaps something like the mall in Washington, D.C., although not these days, but you get the idea. Something where you would we call this, my friend Tone Dreesen calls this a places for people, where you'd have things to do, places to sit down, perhaps a cafe, perhaps some food, public and clean and accessible bathrooms. I don't know, there could be rotating spectacles, themes, festivals, games, like all kinds of things that we could have done with this, experimenting with different types of games. You don't have to spend a fortune with this. You can have, all kinds of little, like even hoops, free hoops for the kids to play with. It would cost $50, right? So we could have tried to do something with that space and we didn't. And so after about a year, the decision was made by the city of Ottawa to, you know what, let's just put back the cars. And I remember at the time I wrote a nasty column. It's one of possibly one of my most popular pieces on my Substack to this day, about how we tried nothing, it didn't work. What the hell? Let's put back the cars. And I was really upset about this. And I remember meeting Mark Sutcliffe, the mayor, a few weeks after that column at an event, at a public event, where he came to me and he said, I'm working on a plan and you'll be happy in the end. Like what we're working on is going to be very good for Wellington Street. And I told him that, and there were witnesses. And I said, if that happens, Mark Sutcliffe, I will be the one leading the parade. Because I don't mind being wrong about things. Like if you're going to turn Wellington Street into a really good, like world class place for a world class city, the capital city of a G7 country, I will be right at the front of that parade. There are no parades. And I was not wrong, not on Wellington and not so far. And here's where it matters because the way that this decision was made is emblematic of the kind of mandate, the kind of mayorship this Mark Sutcliffe has had so far. And that's one where the least amount of imagination is exerted at all times. Whenever there's a decision to be made, you'll notice, go back in time. Whatever is the least imaginative solution is the one that wins. Whatever is the one that is the path of least resistance is the one that wins. We never try anything bold, ever, not even on a small scale. We only agree to things that are already packaged by other people and managed by them. Think Lansdowne 2.0. Think the LeBreton Flats hockey arena that we're supposed to be having, although I haven't heard much details about that one lately, but it's supposed to be like a public-private partnership where the city is just going to be allowing people to do things with their private money, and then, well, we hope it turns out okay. It shows that this mayor and this council is not just a mayor, but he's the one at the head of it. So he gets to bear most of the accountability for this, make decisions in ways that are not strategic. There was nothing to be gained, or very little to be gained, by reopening that stretch of Wellington Street, 500 meters to cars and buses. And by the way, since then, it's been a mess of construction. I was just there again a couple of days ago. There's like one little tiny lane of traffic. It doesn't really go well because of all the construction that's on this stretch of road. So it's not really that good for cars anyway. So people have gotten used to driving around. Like we have Albert, we have Slater, we have the Quebec side, we have all kinds of ways to get around town. So it didn't really do very much for people who enjoy driving in this part of town or need to drive. And it really pissed off all of us who thought that this was a golden opportunity that we just, to do something really good after the convoy occupation, to turn that to something better for the people of Ottawa and all the thousands and tens of thousands of people who travel to Ottawa to see the nation's capital. We didn't do anything about it. And that decision was made because putting cars back was, the easiest, least imaginative, least effort thing to do. And that's what we did. And I thought, if that's the way, and this was early in his mandate. Remember, we're going back, he was elected in October 2022, and we're in January 2023. We're pretty early on. And I thought, if this is how he makes decision, this mayor is a one-term mayor. Nobody likes someone who never tries anything, who's always cautious, always trying to cover their butt, always trying to go for the path of least resistance, and whose only but claim to fame, I guess, or benefit, if you are the kind of voter who really cares about this, is that he's kept taxes reasonably low. Perhaps even too low, because now we don't have money to invest in maintaining our infrastructure. That's a problem with low taxes. You don't have money to pay for the stuff you really need. But if you really care, if your number one issue is the lowest possible tax bill, then he's your guy. And we're about to find out in October if that's what the people of Ottawa in majority want. Then he's Mark Sutcliffe's going to be a two-term mayor, and I'll be wrong. It's okay. I've been wrong before. I don't mind. But if the people of Ottawa care to have a leader who leads by proposing ideas and solutions, by asking around, by consulting for real, looking for the best possible ideas to bring the best value and do the best things for everyone, the people of all of Ottawa and visitors who come to this town, it's a highly touristic city, then he's really not our guy.